Growing up with a growing understanding speech pathology. Conversations about children's development that will support you through your parenting journey.
Hi, I'm Lauren from A Growing Understanding, and welcome to the Growing Up podcast. This is where we have real and practical conversations about children's communication and feeding development, helping parents to feel supported, informed, and empowered. Each episode, I'll sit down with one of our amazing team members to share insights, answer some common questions, and give you some useful strategies that you can take into everyday life. So whether you're wondering if your child may need some support or looking for some tips to help their progress, or perhaps you might like to better understand their journey, this podcast is here to help. If this sounds like it may be helpful, make sure to follow along and let's get started. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Growing Up with a Growing Understanding. In this episode, I am joined by the fabulous Paige. Paige, so lovely to have you join us.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here and have a little bit of a chat about all things speech pathology.
All things speech pathology. And for those that don't know, Paige is one of our speech pathologists at our Lake Macquarie Centre. And we just wanted to make these really relatable, helpful, practical sessions to be able to get to know you a little bit more, Paige, and just to have a discussion, as we said, about speech pathology. So let's break the ice a little bit. I want to know, how did you first become aware of speech pathology as a profession, and what made you think about becoming a speech pathologist?
I first became aware of speech pathology not until later in sort of my high school years. I didn't have any family members that went to speech therapy or anything like that. But what happened was, I think I was looking at courses with my local uni, and I was like, I want to find something where I can help someone sort of in the allied health field. Didn't want to be a nurse because I can't do the blood and things.
Me neither.
No needles. So I think it was my mum who initially found the degree and sort of said, I reckon I could see you being a speech pathologist. And then once I sort of dived in a little bit more and found out what it entailed, because it's so much more than what you think on the surface, I was super interested, and it sounded like the perfect fit for me, which it is.
And for those that know and have worked with Paige, it is so aligned. I can't imagine you in another profession. You were born to be a speech pathologist, I'm sure.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, love it.
And so my next question for you is, when you're not at work or before you come to work for the day and before you come to A Growing Understanding, where would people find you? What do you like to do before coming into work?
Usually I get to spend, well, if I start later in the day, like today I went to Pilates this morning, and then I just spent some quality time with my dogs, and then I came into work. So a nice wholesome morning usually.
Yeah, I love that. We often talk, you and I, about experiences at the gym or, Pilates or...
Yeah, I've only just gotten into Pilates, but I'm so far loving it.
Yeah, fabulous. And last question for you is, what are you reading at the moment?
Oh, I'm a thriller person. I only got into reading like 1 or 2 years ago, very recent, wasn't a reader. I'm currently reading, I think it's called The Housemaid's Secret. I really like Frida McFadden, so she does some good thrillers.
Oh, I like these conversations that we have that, you give me some ideas about what I can read. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing.
I still need to get you onto the Kindle.
I do need to, I think I need to borrow one of the children's Kindles because they've got one. I don't, but
Right.
that would make things, a lot easier. And I think it also, for those that don't know, I've been listening to Audible. So I think having the Kindle would be really helpful because then I can switch between the book and Audible a little bit easier. So you do.
Yeah.
I need to start getting onto Kindle a little bit
so
more.
Good.
Yeah.
Reading in the sun without like any difficulty or in bed, so it's the best.
Okay, it sounds good. You're convincing me. You're convincing me because at the moment I'm only able to really read when I'm sitting down and I tend to fall asleep. So at least if I have something that's a little bit more on the go, that might be helpful.
Definitely.
Today we're diving into myths, and we'll myth bust a little bit, looking at myths versus reality in speech pathology. I thought that this was a fun conversation to have, and when we were talking about potential topics, this is something that, perked your interest in things as well. As speech pathologists, there's sometimes some misunderstanding or some myths, so we're going to myth bust a little bit about what speech pathologists do and about how we may be able to help children. What are some of the myths that you've come across? What's the most common myth, do you think?
There's two different angles to this. I think when I'm talking with new people that I meet at social events, the question is very different to when it's a parent within a session asking questions or asking if a myth is true. I was at a friend's birthday party recently, and one of their friends, so I hadn't met this person, asked, like, being quite curious, wanting to know what it's about, because she sort of thought, oh yeah, you just treat lisps. So I'd say that's probably the main thing, the myth that we just work with lisps or stutters or just speech sounds.
Isn't it funny when you were saying that? Like, I think about so many conversations when I meet someone for the first time and you say that you're a speech pathologist, they automatically make the comment, oh, I've got to watch how I'm talking now. And it's all around the speech clarity side of things. And so it often comes up lisps and stutters. And so some of the things that, are often spoken about is that, speech therapy is for only for kids who can't say their sounds correctly or having difficulties with stuttering. So that's probably the most common one, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's much more than that. But I love I am very passionate, so it gets me sort of sharing that education about what it actually is. And a lot of my caseload is non-speaking autistic children using devices to communicate. So, but I also do see the stuttering clients, the speech sound, the expressive language, and then there's also feeding as well and things like that. So it's so wide.
It is really wide. And I think it's sometimes that lesser known role of what speech pathologists do. As you said, sometimes it makes sense, particularly as people become a little bit more familiar with developmental developmental presentations, that it becomes a little bit makes sense, I guess, that we work with, as you said, non-speaking autistic children. It might make sense for them to understand that we're using some alternative and augmentative communication systems, AAC systems. I guess what I find is that families and the general community don't always necessarily know that we work with language. So the things that aren't actually seen and visible a little bit more. So it can be related to learning and understanding and how well a child can express themselves. And then it can also relate to their learning at school and things as well. So that's something that I come across quite a bit.
Yeah, and especially this time of year, like we're in March, so the kids in kindergarten are getting settled, and we get some more teachers recommending that children come for an assessment and maybe commence therapy. I've got a few recently, and it is the language skills, so teachers are picking up on it and referring on. But you did touch on AAC, which is another big myth. When I was talking about families having myths, I often do, when we're starting to introduce some AAC, whether that be keyword sign or whether it be like a high-tech device, they do often ask, but won't this stop them from learning verbal language? And that's one that I get a lot from parents.
Yeah, and we've seen it a lot. We've got some recent examples, even between you and I, where children have just flourished when they've been given the opportunity to be able to communicate their needs and wants, and even beyond that, just to be able to comment or ask questions. We've really seen an expansion of their ability to be able to communicate, and that this really accelerates their verbal communication as well as makes them more at ease and happier in being able to communicate, which is amazing to see.
They've got so many forms, like especially with the high tech, they've got the written word, they've got the picture, they've got the voice output, they've got the parent usually, or the caregiver saying the word back, and also maybe giving them something that's reinforcing that communication. There's just so many layers that help with that language development.
Yeah, love that. One of the myths that I find is also really quite common. When a family reaches out to another professional, perhaps a doctor or a GP, this idea and this myth that a child will grow out of it, that they'll grow out of the communication difficulties, and that we should just wait and see. What are your thoughts around that?
Um, the difficult thing is that we don't really know who's going to. Some children may spontaneously sort of develop those skills, but early intervention is always best practice here. Yeah, early intervention. It's always better to get a second opinion, like an opinion from a speech pathologist. I think if you have any concerns, there's no harm in coming and getting an assessment, and then the speech pathologist providing you with some education about where exactly they're landing with their skills, maybe what to look out for. Maybe it is I'll give you some milestones that they are in their age appropriate sort of range. But if anything like this, it's sort of like we're not saying bye, but we're saying we'll talk to you soon, sort of touching base.
Yeah, I think we've all heard, as speech pathologists, we've heard, my uncle, my brother, my sister, my friend's cousin's daughter, they didn't talk until they were 5 and they're fine now, or they're communicating now. So we've heard all of those. And I think you put it really nicely that, for some children, they will grow out of it, but we don't actually know which children are going to grow out of it and which children require the assessment and support to be able to close that gap and to be able to make improvements. And we know the importance of early intervention and how to be able to really focus in on particular children. And we do know that after seeing a child, which children do require intervention and which children can benefit from waiting and seeing. But I like to refer it to support and see rather than wait and see. Because it's getting that knowledge and information to be able to determine whether they need therapy now or whether we're able to provide support down the track.
Yeah, and if you have concerns with your child's communication or feeding skills, I think like as I said before, come in for an assessment or even just a discussion with a speech pathologist. It can be really comforting to just chat through things, or maybe the child does need some other professionals involved, and then you can sort of get that process started. We might be able to refer onwards to someone who might be able to support you, or another professional to work with.
Yeah, I think just gathering as a parent, I know that it's hard to know where to get reliable information from, and to know what is the correct information. I think we gather as much information as we can from family and friends and from our village and from our community around us. And our village is also expanding into social media and online in terms of gathering that information. What are your thoughts, Paige, in terms of how can parents get reliable information? Where should they seek information about communication and feeding development, and how can they determine what is a myth and what is factual information? Where should they be looking?
I think one of the main websites is Speech Pathology Australia. They have lots of great resources on there in terms of milestones and seeing what is age appropriate and what isn't. They have some great resources there, but we do also have some good resources on our website. We have some documents about how to find the right practice for you, the right speech pathologist for you, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren, I think we do have some myths on there as well somewhere.
Yeah, I think we have got
Debunking some
some,
of those.
and just clarifying some of that factual information as well. So we've got some
Yeah.
information around, does your child need to see a speech pathologist? So some of that milestone information around communication and feeding for that 0 to 5 kind of age group,
Yeah.
which often comes up. And also we've just got some strategies and some helpful information about what
Oh,
does
definitely.
work. So we know that modeling and recasting can be a really powerful tool to be able to when families are using them. So when parents and caregivers are using modeling and recasting with their child that has communication difficulties, that can be really powerful to support that development of the communication that you're aiming for.
Yeah. And if they're ever wanting more information, you can always reach out.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to seek advice from your trusted medical professional. So your GP is generally a good first port of call. But you can also reach out to a speech pathologist. You can reach out to us. We try to share a lot of information through these platforms, including, that's why we're starting a podcast, to be able to answer some of the questions around communication and to clarify some of those things. And also, make an appointment to see a speech pathologist. If you want specific and individual information about your child, that's where you can, access more information as well. So there's some really good starting points for where people can get information that's reliable. Speech Pathology Australia, you might also find some information on our website as well. As a final takeaway, Paige, for this discussion, if there was one myth that you would like to bust for good, what would it be? What would you like to make sure that we don't, we kind of inform the local community out there in regards to speech pathology? What would be the big take home that you would like them to get out of this episode?
I think the main one was the AAC one that I brought up earlier, because it comes up a lot. And I just don't want people to be scared of AAC, because it can bring, I've seen how much happiness and how much development it can bring. It's just incredible. So I don't want anyone to be scared of it and not want to give it a try, because there is no harm. There is only good that comes from trying it sometimes.
Yeah, love that. If I can share one of mine, for me, that therapy takes forever, and that my child needs to have intensive therapy for a long period of time in order to be able to make any difference to their outcomes. That's not always the case. I think with the right intervention, and always our goal at A Growing Understanding is to make the therapy as efficient and effective as possible. We want nothing more than to be able to support children to be able to work towards finishing their speech pathology journey, and we've always got that in front of mind. So it doesn't always need to be a long and intensive process. So that's a big myth that I would like to clarify and to send that message out to families. And sometimes it is just, as we said, an assessment, some strategies that might be helpful, and that might be all that's required. So we want to make sure that we're not keeping you longer than what we need to.
And it's always
pathology journey.
It's always so sad as well. It's like, I wish I could keep you forever, but you've achieved your goals. Like sometimes it can be so quick that they're in and out, and it's like, oh my goodness, like. Yeah, we're going to miss seeing them. So it's happy and sad at the same time. Bittersweet.
Yeah, it is bittersweet. Yeah, we love seeing that goal achievement and sending them on their way as much as we love.
We don't want to keep them around. Like, it's not in a bad way, but we don't want to keep you here forever.
Yeah. We still want them to pop in and say hello to us that we can check in with them. Yeah. Fabulous. Thanks so much for your time today. I know that's been really helpful in busting some myths for families around speech pathology. Always lovely to catch up with you, Paige. Thanks for your time.
Yes, you too. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Growing Up with A Growing Understanding Speech Pathology. We love helping families navigate their parenting concerns and ensuring your child can grow and achieve. Please rate and review wherever you're listening so we can continue to grow together.